Hey guys, I have the brand new NATASHA DENONA Metropolis 28 pan eyeshadow palette here. I am so excited to share this palette with you guys. It is really beautiful. So today's video is a first impressions. I just got this in the mail from Sephora. I ordered it yesterday, so it came lickety split, which I could not be happier about. But I'll be showing you some swatches of all of the shadows in here. I'll be doing some comparison swatches to 3 other NATASHA DENONA palettes. We'll be doing a demo on this look, and I'll be giving you my first impressions thoughts on here. As usual, there will be timestamps down below. There will also be more information on the makeup that I'm using today, other than the eyeshadow, down below in the description box. So definitely check that out before you leave. And if you are a luxury beauty lover like myself, and you're really into new product release videos, first impressions, full reviews, definitely don't forget to subscribe before you leave. So let's go ahead and get into this palette. So this is the brand new NATASHA DENONA Metropolis palette, and this came out yesterday on Sephora. And I did want to show you that it came packaged so well. So the last few times I've ordered a NATASHA DENONA palette from Sephora, it's come packaged in this like corrugated cardboard paper thing inside this hard cardboard box inside the Sephora box. So I've been very impressed with the packaging. Sometimes the NATASHA DENONA shadows, because they're so soft and buttery and creamy, sometimes they break in transit very easily. So I haven't had any issues with my palettes since Sephora started packaging it in this very well insulated packaging. So very happy with that. And like I've mentioned, I think this will be the 3rd time. I got it basically overnight, even though I chose 2-day flash shipping, but it came next day. I couldn't be happier. And on the back of the box here, you'll see that they have all the shade names and what type of formula it is. And then on the left over here, you'll see ingredients for all the different shades. The font is so small that I brought it as close up to the video camera as possible. But if you want to go ahead and just freeze the video here just to kind of take a look at the ingredients, go right ahead, please do so. I will just mention, because it is small, I will just mention that like mica and talc are pretty much the first 2 ingredients in most of the shadows. So I just wanted to mention that. And then you'll notice that the packaging here for this palette is very similar to like the sunset, the lila, the gold. It's not that hard plastic. It's more of like this kind of spongy faux leather packaging. And it has a really nice, beautiful, deep teal color on the outside. It says NATASHA DENONA Metropolis Palette. Here's the back. And then the inside you have the mirror, you have that clear sheet with the color names and types on there, and then here are the 28 shades. So just for size comparison, I was very curious to see if this palette was the exact same size as the other palettes, and you'll notice that I have it here, I'm holding it up against the gold palette, and it's a little bit shorter than the gold palette, but a little bit wider than the gold palette. So it's a brand new size to the NATASHA DENONA line, and I think they're referring to this size as the MIDI, M-I-D-I, the MIDI size palette. There are 28 shades in this palette. There are 5 different finishes, and it retails for $129 US. So as far as I know, this palette is available on Sephora and also on the NATASHA DENONA site. I imagine it's going to pop up on other retailers, but the last time I checked, those were the only 2 at the moment. Let's go ahead and get into the swatches. So I've swatched them row by row, and I'll read out to you the color name and the type of formula that we have. So here, starting from the left, we have the color Rust, which is a metallic shade. Then we have Troop, which is a cream to powder shade. Orium, which is a duochrome. Shield, which is a metallic. Ripe, which is a creamy matte. Stain, which is a cream to powder. And Mace, which is a metallic shade. For the second row, we have Rope, which is a creamy matte, Fuse, which is a metallic, Lethal, which is a cream to powder, Penny, which is a metallic, Chrism, which is a cream to powder, Aqueous, which is a metallic, and Queen, which is a metallic. On the next row, we have Blaze, which is a chroma crystal, Noble, which is a metallic, Imperia, which is a metallic, Royal, which is a cream to powder, Crest, which is a metallic, Enigma, which is a cream to powder, and Pure, which is a cream to powder. And for the last row, we have Asiac, which is a cream to powder, Jubilee, which is a metallic, Symbol, which is a cream to powder, Rhizome, which is a creamy matte, Claret, which is a metallic, Helena, which is a chroma crystal, and Antique, which is a cream to powder. So those are the 28 different shades in here. I also did some comparison swatches between this palette and the Gold palette, the Sunrise palette, and the Safari palette. So let's go ahead and take a look at this palette next to the Gold palette. I really thought that there were going to be more of these gold metallic shades that were kind of dupes between the two, but there really aren't. If you take a look at this overhead shot, you'll notice that the gold shades in the Gold palette, the like gold metallic shades, are different. They seem really, really subdued next to the Metropolis palette. So the only two shades that I thought were kind of similar between the two was Imperia in the Metropolis palette and Oro in the Gold palette. And then for the Safari palette, I actually thought that there was quite a few matte shades that were very similar. So first we have the Ripe shade in the Metropolis palette compared to the Tribe shade in the Safari palette. Then we have the Rope shade from the Metropolis palette compared to the Tamarind shade in the Safari palette. And then I compared the Pure shade from the Metropolis palette next to the Thorn shade in the Safari palette. I thought the first two comparisons were pretty close. The Thorn shade, the last one, with the Pure shade over here, those are fairly different, but the closest between the two. And then finally, I compared the Metropolis palette with the Sunrise palette, because when I swatched the Claret shade from the Metropolis palette, I thought it looked very similar to the Phlox shade in the Sunrise palette, and I do think that they're very, very similar. And then I swatched the Crest shade from the Metropolis palette with the Azalea shade from the Sunrise palette. And I'm not sure how it's coming across on camera, but the Azalea shade has a lot more like interest to it. It definitely like duochromes over to peach a little bit more. And it's definitely much more of a duochromy kind of shade versus this shade in here, which is more of just kind of like a straight up metallic shade. So just some first impressions, thoughts on when I opened up this palette and saw it for the first time. The first thing I want to mention is when I first saw kind of teaser pics of this palette, I have to admit, I was not that excited by it. I basically felt like each individual shade looked very, very interesting, but this entire color story, I don't know, just didn't appeal to me. It's not something that, you know, just really, really excited me, like the way the Gold palette did or the Sunrise palette. Like those really spoke to me. This one, I have to say, didn't really speak to me. But I have to say, when I got it in person and I opened it up, I appreciate the color story much, much more. There's something definitely kind of missing in the pictures. And if you ordered this palette and you got it as well, let me know down below in the comment section what you think, because I feel like the pictures are very accurate, but for some reason, just in person, I don't know, it just looks so much more appealing to me. Maybe it's because you can see all the different textures of the different shadows a little bit more. It looks a little bit more flat maybe in the photos. I'm not sure what it is, but I do like it a lot more in person than I did in the preview pics. The other thing I will mention, which I think is very exciting, is that I think this is very, very medium to deep skin tone friendly. Like this is such a rich, rich palette, and Natasha Denona shadows are so pigmented, and all of the colors in here are very deep. This is probably the lightest one. Yeah, this is the lightest one, and it's a shimmer. So this is the lightest matte, which I used kind of as a transition shade in here. And this is like as deep as I can go, I think, for a transition shade. I would usually reach for, like if I had the option, I would probably reach for something a little bit lighter. So I think this is a great palette for deeper skin tones, which is very exciting. So far, because this is a first impressions, so far, I love the quality of these shadows. I think that they perform really well from what I could tell from what I used. When I swatched them, they seem like Natasha Denona quality shadows. The one comment I want to make before we just kind of get into the demo is that these two shadows are very, very similar. You guys probably noticed that in the swatch, and I thought I like kind of swatched, like I mistakenly swatched one for the other, but they're just very, very similar. I don't think that she needed both. I think there's a slight difference in the undertone of it. One is a little bit more green, but they're very, very close, like very close. And for such a dark, dark blue, I don't think you needed both. Other than that, I just love it. I love all of these shades. As you guys can probably tell, I'm living for these like really kind of like scummy green colors. I love a good scummy green. That's pretty much what I put on my eyes today. This is such a great fall palette, like fall going into winter. I think this is absolutely perfect. What I think is very interesting, and this is, I think, probably one of the reasons why I really appreciate NATASHA DENONA shadows and her palettes especially, is she seems to have, you know, a very clear vision about what she wants to do. Obviously, she's an artist, but it never really falls in line with the trend directly, yet it seems to always work. So I feel like eyeshadow palettes are really kind of going towards like the cooler look. I'm seeing more and more cooler color stories for eyeshadow palettes, and here we are with an incredibly warm toned eyeshadow palette, but I feel it's absolutely perfect for fall. Like, these colors will always be perfect for fall. Gold, greens, these like really deep brown greens, these oranges, reds, they will always just be perfect for fall. They're like falling leaves, like it's just perfect. And then to throw in some of these brighter colors, I think is great for like the holiday season. I just think it's a lot of fun. And again, she did something kind of unexpected and something I feel like I wasn't sure if I was gonna like, and I'm liking it just like the more and more I look at it and use it and swatch it. I'm just really kind of like starting to love this whole color palette. Okay, I think those are all of my first impressions, thoughts. Let's go ahead and get into the demo right now. All right, guys, let's get into this demo. I really want to use these two colors in here, these two greens in there. And then other than that, maybe like this peachy color. I'm not exactly sure. We're just gonna wing it. But I'm gonna start by laying down this color just to kind of frame out what I wanna do. It just, I don't know, it's like a nice little warm up for me. I always like to start with like a little transition shade. So I'm gonna go in with my Sonia G Blender Pro brush, and I'm gonna go into this shade, and that name is Rope. And I'm just gonna place this on the outer corner of my eye and like into my socket line here. All right, so just lay down a little bit of color. It's behaving like all of the other NATASHA DENONA creamy matte shadows that I've used. Blends out really nicely. I think the pigmentation is there. I think I'm losing my voice. Let's go ahead and move on. As I was kind of dipping into this shade, I was looking at this kind of like orangey metallic shade. I think I would definitely want to use that with these greens. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with this orangey shade. I just want to see what this looks like. I'm going to use my Esom W21 brush. It's like a flat shader brush, and I'm just going to go into this orange shade. What is its name? It is called Rust. So I'm going to go into Rust with my W21. I'm going to place this on the inner corner of my eye, and I'm just going to press this down in hopes to avoid any excessive fallout or any fallout at all. So I'm pressing that in, and now I'm just sweeping it to kind of blend it across there. So I just want to keep it kind of on the inner third of my lid here. All right, so we'll start there, and then I'm going to take a smaller fluffy blending brush. I'm going to take my Esom S33. Is that what this is? Yeah, my Esom S33, and I'm going to go into this, I'm calling it the avocado shade, but what is it? Lethal. Wow. Okay, I'm going to go into Lethal. Pretty much sweep this over the rest of my lid, and I'm just blending it kind of gently over the orange metallic, but I'm going to focus it basically on the center and the outer portion of my lid. Okay, pretty decent start. I feel like I'm gonna have to add a different color in there to blend the orange and the green a little bit more, probably something in between, like a yellowy gold. But I wanna move on to this Troop color, which is this really dark olive color. It looks very pretty. And I wanna put that on the outer corner of my eye, and probably I'll end up like lining my eyes with it. But I'm gonna use my trusty Esom W36 brush. This is the brush I love to use to like deepen up the outer corner of my eye. And I'm just sweeping that over from the angle where I want to kind of place the eyeshadow. So I'm angling my brush, is what I'm trying to say. I'm angling my brush, placing it down, I'm just flicking it in. That is some crazy pigmentation. I felt like I had barely any on my brush. I'm going to take a blending brush here and just blend out that top edge. Ooh, I love that. The undertone of that really dark olivey green is very mustardy. Oh, it looks so, so cool. If you're really into these like scummy greens, this is such a good one. And then to kind of fix this transition between the orange and the green, I feel like it's a little bit too stark. It's not like blending together to create like a third color. I'm gonna take this Builder Pro brush from Sonia G, and I'm gonna go into this shade right here, which is called Fuse. And it's a very orangey yellow. So I think it's going to blend into the orange that I have in there nicely. And then maybe take just a hint of this matte color, which is called Rhizome. I think Rhizome. I'm going to take that just very, very lightly. I'm going to take a blending brush that I've used before, and I'm going to brush that over this area too. And I'm going to take this same brush, go into my original shade, this Rope shade, and use this just to kind of blend out this top edge, make sure it looks a little bit more blown out than it does now. Okay, I'm going to take my liner brush, which is the Esom T05 brush. I'm going to go back into that Troop color, which is this dark olive shade, and I'm going to line my eyes with this. I think I want a little bit more of like a blown out effect on my lower lash line. So I'm going to take a pencil brush. This is the S31. I'm going to go back into that same Troop color and use this to kind of smudge out this lower lash line. All right, I'm gonna throw on some mascara. I actually have to finish up my makeup. I don't have much makeup on. I just have foundation, concealer. I have a little bit of blush on. Anyway, you get my drift. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my makeup and I will be right back. So I just finished putting on my mascara and I feel like I'm still missing stuff underneath my eye. I feel like there's such strong color above my eye. So I think I'm gonna add a little bit of that rust color, which is that metallic orange, just right here. Maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll screw everything up. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So I have my same pencil brush here. I'm just going to tap some right on that inner portion of my lower lash line. Okay, there. I actually think that looks a little bit better. At least it looks a little bit more balanced. I don't know if this is like my favorite eye look ever, but I like that much better. Okay, let me go back and finish up the rest of my face and I'll be right back. All right, well, I have ended up with another very, very fall pumpkin spice latte kind of look. It's whenever I throw that orange in there. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you have any questions down below in the comment section. I think I pretty much gave you all my thoughts at the beginning of this video. I think this palette is really, really beautiful. And from what I have used and, you know, swatching or whatever, I do feel like the quality of these shadows is NATASHA DENONA quality shadows. I don't think that there's any skimping here. I don't think there's anything odd, or I'm not noticing anything different about all the different finishes in here from her other palettes. So I'm very, very happy with it so far. Leave me any questions down below in the comments section. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and definitely subscribe down below if you haven't already. I'll see you in my next video.